Gospel of Luke, chapter 10. Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, so she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." May the Spirit speak to us in the reading of the Gospel. Frank was doing a little jazz conversation there. That's all right. That's cool. I realized why I don't usually wear this particular shirt, because the neck is about a half-inch smaller than my other shirts. I could not fit it buttoned, so I'm going to be a little bit more casual today. So. Some of you have threatened me if I didn't become more casual. Coming on the heels, as it does, of the story we considered last week, the parable of the Good Samaritan, this short episode in Luke 10 seems somewhat contradictory. Last week, Jesus told a parable whose protagonist took a variety of specific actions to care for a person in need, to express hospitality, if you will. And Jesus' message to the lawyer whose question occasioned the parable was, "Go and do likewise." Today, however, the story that immediately follows that parable, Jesus takes the side of the sister who does nothing while offering a rebuke to the one who is busy performing the tasks of hospitality. What are we to make of this apparent inconsistency? The story itself seems simple enough. Jesus and his entourage come to a village, and a woman named Martha welcomes him into her home. While she is busy attending to all the details of being a proper host, her sister, and I like to imagine her as her little sister, Mary, plops down in front of Jesus and listens to his teachings. Needless to say, Martha does not appreciate this and becomes so exasperated at the unfairness of the situation that she asks Jesus to intervene and make Mary help her. But Jesus refuses to do so. He says, "Martha, Martha, why are you worried and distracted? You are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken away from her." Here we have a story of competition between siblings and an appeal to a higher authority to restore fairness. What could be more obvious or familiar than that? "Mom, you told us to clean up our room, but Michael's not helping. He's just sitting there reading his comic book and letting me do all the work. Make him help me." If you have ever said anything like this yourself, or heard anything remotely like it from your children, I won't ask for a show of hands. Just, I don't know, continue breathing. That's what I thought. The surprising and kind of upsetting twist, however, comes with Jesus' response to Martha's complaint. In my example, the mother's response approximately 9.99 times out of 10 would be, "Michael, put down the comic book and do what you're told." In my family, there may have been a get off your duff involved as well, but such creative modifications do not change the essential point. Jesus takes an entirely different tack. He defends Mary. He commends her choice to sit at his feet and offers a mild rebuke to Martha for her failure to make the same choice. The scene ends there, so we don't know what Martha does or says next. But it would be understandable if she found it a little bit hard to accept Jesus' verdict. Who could blame her for feeling hurt, undervalued, or misused? After all, she has merely been playing the role that has been assigned to her as faithfully as she knows how. She has been trying to protect the honor of her household by observing the all-important rules of hospitality. And it's not as though Jesus is unconcerned with hospitality. Earlier in the Gospel, he upbraids a Pharisee for his failures as a host, and his instructions to his disciples as he sends them out on their mission presupposes the giving and receiving of hospitality. He tells them to stay in one house, eat what is set before them, and pronounce shalom on those who welcome them. And as we have seen in the parable immediately preceding this episode, the Samaritan's detailed acts of compassion are virtually indistinguishable from the characteristics of hospitality. It has long been noted that Luke has a tendency to balance episodes involving male characters with ones featuring females and vice versa. The account of the Annunciation to Mary and her Magnificat is paired with the story of Zechariah's vision in the temple and his Benedictus. Simeon and Anna both encounter the infant Jesus and his parents in the temple. Jesus tells a parable on prayer featuring a man who knocks on the door of his neighbor at midnight, and another about a widow seeking justice from a corrupt judge. And here we have a story about hospitality featuring two women that follows a story about hospitality with an all-male cast. But there may be something more going on here in this instance. Here we see Luke providing a sense of balance that goes deeper than the fact that the Samaritan is a man and Martha is a woman. With this story, Luke shows the importance of being to balance out the emphasis on doing in the parable. Jesus never says that the things Martha is doing are wrong or unimportant, but he does say that in choosing simply to be in his presence and soaking up his teachings, Mary has taken the better part. The participle translated here as distracted in describing Martha carries the sense of being pulled or dragged in different directions. When Jesus remarks that Martha is worried and distracted by many things, he is observing a soul that is not at rest. Martha has so many responsibilities. She is so conscientious about being a good host that she has run herself ragged. In doing so, she has missed out on what is really important. Have you ever gone to somebody's house for a visit and not seen one of the hosts or hostesses for about an hour because they're so busy? Some people become so intent on making a good impression that they actually end up neglecting their guests. I would much rather, personally, spend time in relaxed conversation with someone than to find a perfectly folded swan napkin on my dinner plate. I think that's the way Jesus feels about Martha. Her rushing around to accomplish all the tasks she has set herself has kept her from providing a truly hospitable atmosphere. I think he would prefer that she drop the Martha Stewart routine and just sit down and relax. On Friday night, David Holyfield and I visited the Tifereth Israel Synagogue with the Interfaith Association of Central Ohio. After a tour of the facilities, a reception, and a brief orientation from the rabbi, we took part in their Shabbat worship service. I was reminded of just how long it's been since I studied Hebrew at seminary as I struggled to follow along with the liturgy. It was a baffling but strangely beautiful experience, but what really struck me was the rabbi's description of the meaning and practice of Sabbath. He said that in conservative Jewish congregations like Tifereth Israel, the period of rest from Friday evening to Saturday evening is primarily set aside as family time. They don't go anywhere. They shut off their phones and computers and other electronic equipment, and they enjoy their time together in face-to-face conversation, free of distractions. They stop doing for a day to focus on being. As I listened to this description, I felt a sense of conviction about my own practice of Sabbath, or my failure to practice Sabbath, which strikes closer to the truth. I realized how seldom I turn off everything else in order to give my full attention to those I love. It occurred to me how many screens are involved in my daily life, not only at work, but also in my times of relaxation. Computer, phone, tablet, and TV screens get the lion's share of my attention from the time I get up in the morning until the time I go to bed, also in the morning. With my Kindle, even reading a book involves a screen. With the Bible and devotional apps I use, even my times of meditation, prayer, and study involve some kind of screen. For Pete's sake, I'm reading this sermon off the screen. Now, it's not that there's anything essentially wrong with screens or with modern technology per se. The trouble with screens is when they go from being a noun to a verb. When the screen we are looking at begins to screen us from the people and things that should be, and we say are, most important to us, we have a problem. When the technological advances that were designed to bring us together begin to do the opposite, we have a problem. When the distractions they bring start to pull us in so many different directions that they keep us from spending uninterrupted time with our family or friends or God, we have a problem. One of the things that Jesus is talking about in this passage is Sabbath. He is talking about stepping away from the distractions that threaten to pull us apart and simply resting in the presence of God. He is talking about the being that must precede our doing, if that doing is to have any real meaning, and not devolve in merely stroking our egos and padding our resumes. He is saying that the better part, the one needful thing, is that which Mary has chosen, and he will not let anyone take it away from her, even her big sister. The ironic thing is that Martha, in her earnest desire to provide hospitality to Jesus and her exasperation with Mary for not helping, actually proves to be a pretty poor hostess. She may have a variety of hors d'oeuvres, tastefully arranged on a bone china platter and fresh flowers in each place setting, but she has neglected the most important element of hospitality, providing gracious attention to her guest. She errs further by trying to embarrass her sister, asking her guest to get involved in a family squabble, and even accusing her guest of insensitivity. She says, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all this work by myself? Tell her to help me." If, as one commentator on this passage suggests, the greatest act of hospitality Martha could offer Jesus is to give him her attention and simply listen to him, Martha gets an F. But so do many of us. While we should be emulating Mary, giving our undivided attention to Jesus, many of us fall into Martha's trap of seeking always to be doing something for Jesus, including things he neither asks us for nor wants. Sometimes we get so busy doing for that we forget about the being with that gives the doing its meaning. That is Martha's problem, and I assure you, I can relate. There are, of course, different ways to express our devotion and discipleship. Not everyone has to follow the same pattern. Some of us are more comfortable with activism than contemplation, and that's okay. But Jesus is telling Martha and us that we must find a balance. We must nurture the relationship that energizes and makes possible the activism. At the same time, those who are more contemplative by nature must not use that propensity as an excuse to hide from the world. If Mary were to lose her sense of balance, sitting at Jesus' feet until she grows roots, all the while neglecting her other legitimate responsibilities, I imagine Jesus would rebuke her as well. Balance is crucial. Last week's text told us that true hospitality demands that we draw near to others to recognize their need, and that we then take actions to meet that need. This week, the message is that true hospitality is more about being present, listening, and learning than about frenzied activity without reflection. I wondered aloud last Sunday how our world would be different if we consistently drew near to our wounded neighbors and witnessed their need. Today, I'm wondering how much conflict and misunderstanding could be resolved, how much fear and alienation could be overcome if we would learn to sit with our wounded neighbors and listen to their genuine concerns. If we offered them that kind of hospitality. What if, instead of shouting, "All lives matter," we who are white were to take the time really to listen to the concerns of those who proclaim that black lives matter? What if we were to drop our defensiveness long enough to listen not only to their words, but to the hurt and anger and long generations of frustration that stand in back of that plea? What if, instead of ignoring those who are poor or blaming them for their poverty, we who live relatively comfortably were to take the time to listen to the stories these children of God have to tell? What if, instead of screaming our own slogans when we encounter those with whom we disagree politically or theologically, we were to take the time to listen to the reasoning behind their arguments? What if we were to resolve not to pigeonhole or caricature anybody, but rather to honor their individuality and dignity by letting them speak for themselves? I don't know, frankly, how much this would help. I'm sure it would not be a panacea that would right all wrongs and heal every social divide. But I can't imagine it being any worse than our current practice in this nation, where it seems as though each person comes equipped with a megaphone and a pair of earplugs. It may not be the cure-all, but I think Jesus would call it the better part. And I'm willing to give it a shot. I am willing to try to extend hospitality by drawing near, listening, and then seeking ways to help meet the needs I discover in the process. Not for the person in need, but with the person in need. Who knows but that the very act of drawing near and listening will be the seed from which peace and reconciliation will grow. Who knows but that in our being we will find the key to our doing. In sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to his words and drinking in his presence, Mary chose the better part. Now the choice falls to all of us Marthas. Will we too choose true hospitality? Will we choose Sabbath? Will we choose to stop, to listen, to be? Mary chose the better part. Now let us go and do likewise.